is another interesting part of the program, which is a book review on Israel and China, from Silk Road to Innovation Highway. And we have the two co-authors of this book here today to tell us about how Israel and China are collaborating and what the benefits and the disadvantages are. And so I will let Lionel Friedfeld, the CEO and Managing Director of the Israel Asian Fund, and Philippe, the Managing Partner of AlphaSec Advisors, tell us all about their new book, Israel and China.
Thank you, Rebecca. Let me first start this session by giving an anecdote. I mean, one of the companies I manage is a family office where we advise Chinese well-to-do families as well as groups to invest overseas. About a year and a half ago, I got a phone call from a major law firm in Shanghai that wanted to talk to me about creating a joint venture. And when I went there, they said, well, we know about your involvement in Israel, and we would like to do more because Israel is a smart country. I don't know what a smart country is, but anyway, I listened. And then the next sentence said, well, Israel is smart because Israel invented ICQ. And I have to tell you that over pretty much the last 30 years that I've been living in Hong Kong, which is really the gateway to China, ICQ has had a tremendous impact in China. It was really the first time that Chinese could communicate without having the big brother behind them. Now, what is interesting, and Lionel will speak a little more about the book, but I just want to focus on why China is going to reshape the global economy. And whatever we're going to say today is going to be an understatement. Now, being based in Hong Kong, I have the opportunity to travel to China pretty much every week. And every time I'm there, I hear new things, and I need to double check because they are so incredible. So I decided just to give you two numbers. As of today, if you take the shopping malls currently under construction, I'm not talking about completed shopping malls, the shopping mall currently being built in China, this is twice the size of Manhattan. China, over the last 3 years, used more concrete than the US over the last 100 years. And it doesn't stop. And frankly, when we hear about the slowing down of the economy, for someone who is there all the time, I really don't see it. Now, I just want to focus also about capital outflow. This year, the capital outflow will be about $1 trillion US. In 2020, it's going to be $5 trillion. So let's imagine for one moment that Israel is going to benefit from 1% of its capital outflow. We're talking about $50 billion. Now, the big challenge for Israel is going to be liquidity. And I want to use one analogy. The People's Bank of China is buying a lot of US treasuries. Not because they are excited about the high yield or because the great credit rating. They have nowhere else to invest because no other market than the US Treasury market offers the depth and liquidity that it has. So one of the issues that we are facing, and as I said, when we talk to customers interested in investing in Israel, is the size of the market. As you all know, Israel only has one company in the Fortune 500. And if you take two countries that are pretty much the same size as people, Switzerland and Hong Kong, they have between 8 and 10. So the issue might be, is there any opportunity for the very big boys to invest in Israel? Now, one of the things I want to discuss, and we touched base on this topic a few times today, is brands. And I'm very, very sure that all the existing Chinese brands, I'm not talking about Baidu and Alibaba, but I'm talking about Huawei, I'm talking about Haier, all these brands are going to become more and more popular in the world. And I have to tell you that China is currently investing a lot of money in public relations and advertising to let the world know about this product. And I tell you what, I am convinced that Chinese brands will become more and more popular. Now, something that China is very good at, when they understand that they are good at something, they go full force. And I give you one example. 5 years ago, there were only 6 companies in the world manufacturing high-speed train, mostly from Japan, from the US, and from Europe. Today, there are 11. Can you guess where the 5 newcomers are coming from? They all come from China. And I could go on and show you the magnitude of the power of the Chinese economy. Now, one of the things that has an impact, that where China will have an impact, they will change the way we do business. They will impose the way to do business, their way to do business. The business culture is very different, and I'm sure that all of you who have been doing business in China understand that the corporate world is very different. The company culture is pretty much the opposite that we have in Israel. And I remember that one day one of my Chinese clients who was talking to a very senior official from Bank of Israel came to me and said, "Oh, I need to apologize because I was too straightforward." And I told him, I said, it doesn't exist in Israel. You can never be too straightforward. But China will continue to impose the way they want to do business. And frankly, at the end of the day, we will have to play by the Chinese rules. Now, if you have a look at also, of course, we've got lots of Chinese students studying overseas. My son was born in Hong Kong, but he studied in China. And he studied in China, and trust me, he was not the only Caucasian there. A lot of students are now going to China. And China, to be honest, is not very impressed with what the West have done. He said, well, you tell us how to manage our economy. We don't have the mess that you had in the subprime crisis and others. So we know exactly what we're doing. The last point before giving the floor to Lionel is the made in China, which is today a liability. Now, I grew up in Europe, and I'm not that young anymore, and when I was a kid, everything that was made in Japan was junk, was not seen as being good quality. Japan got better, and then the new junk was made in Taiwan. Now, I can tell you that within 10 years, the made in China will not be a liability, but will become a major advantage. Now, one of the reasons why Lionel and I decided to write the book is really to explain the hundreds of parallels there are and the opportunities there are between China and Israel. So I will let Lionel elaborate on the book.
Thank you, Philippe. So I'm just presenting you a copy of the book, which is called Israel and China from Silk Road to Innovation Highway. Why we chose this title, it's obvious, because we're all here either as lawyer, accountant, as VC, as investors, as incubators, working with China, and China is coming to Israel to work with us. And this is a big buzz about it. But we have to remember that 2,000 years ago, this partnership in between Israel or the Jewish people and the Chinese people already happened along the Silk Road. And if you just take a famous book from Marco Polo, in his book, A Marvelous of Wonders, he's saying that most of the traders on the Silk Road coming to Beijing are Jewish guys. And we're speaking about innovation. Look back at Chinese innovation 2,000 years ago, which was actually making the paper, manufacturing the hard craft of manufacturing paper. Actually, it's a Jewish group from south of France called the Rhodanite people that travel along the Silk Road to bring back this innovation to Europe and to the world. So history has to be looked at. If today you're interested and you're following the Chinese-Israeli cooperation, you're reading the newspaper, basically this book is just bringing perspective and a new understanding on how to these two huge civilizations, maybe one of the two oldest people in the world that cherish, in one hand, tradition, and on the other hand, innovation, and how they're just striving for these two concepts. So basically, we're sharing ideas. I give you ideas. We all know Li Ka-shing, and we saw this morning a representative of Hutchison on Power that actually was one of the key get opener into the Chinese-Israeli relationship. And Li Ka-shing is also the richest person in Asia today. But not so long time ago, only in 1930, you had a Jewish guy called Silas Ardun that had an empire of trading, that was a magnate real estate developer in Shanghai. He owns most of the properties on Nanjing Road, which is the equivalent of the Fifth Avenue in Shanghai. I'm sure that you know that. But basically, it has a huge impact on the relationship in between the Chinese to the Israeli, because one tenant of Silas Ardun was simply Mao Zedong. So there is a lot of respect for the Jewish philosophy, a lot of respect for the culture. Even Silas Ardun is the only character in the Western world to have his own figures into the Chinese opera. And I think it just said it all. So basically this book is dealing with history towards the idea of business and partnership from Israel to China, but it's also giving, we all know the Israeli tech scene. We have the office of the chief scientist here, how immigration, the support from the government, the universities that we have, the immigration from a lot of engineers from Russia contributed to the Israeli high-tech scene. But you have to understand, why not 10 years ago Chinese investors were coming to Israel? Why suddenly they appeared on a roadmap of Chinese, of Asian in general? Why? Because you have to take into consideration it's a long process, and we're dealing with that, and we're showing example of macroeconomics. Basically, from the appointment of Stanley Fischer at the head of the Bank of Israel, that was really trusted by international investors, that the fact that Israel came into the OECD, which is basically the United Nations of economy, the fact that the MSCI index changes Israel's status from emerging country to developed countries. I can give you, and we actually providing a lot of example about that, and one fact which is very important for Israel, the fact that the shekel became an international currency only in 2008 when it joined a clearing settlement company called CLS, which is the International Clearing Settlement for Currency in the world. So
I have a comment and a question. Comment is, how many people read this book?
Nobody.
No, I let you know. This book was launched a couple of weeks ago in Hong Kong.
So I have the book. I actually read the book.
Okay.
Yes.
Me too.
So I want to, yes. So I want to say for everybody here that it's a great book and everybody should read it. And let me tell you why. I'll tell it in a different way because I'm not sure you're doing it.
We just don't know each other.
Yes. So the book is full of very detailed and very specific anecdotes and examples of the historical relationship. Lots of them from various directions. And this is an especially important point when you're dealing with Chinese people. All these small things are like building blocks of the relationship. So I think it's a must-read for, and I read many books on China in general and Israel in general, but this is perhaps the only one that specializes on both of them. So I think it's a must-read for anybody that wants to build a relationship. And maybe just to give just one anecdote, maybe you can give us the anecdote of the Kaduri family in Hong Kong, which people are not familiar with. Maybe three sentences.
The first thing that people from Israel or from the Jewish world do when they come to Hong Kong, they want to look at what the big Jewish families, Kaduri and Sassoon, have done. Now, we all know that infrastructure is key for China. And you would go anywhere in Asia, but Hong Kong in particular, and you would realize that the infrastructure, everything, the Cross Harbor Tunnel, the Kowloon Canton Railway, the big tram, all the infrastructure, but not only in Hong Kong, for example, the railway in Vietnam was also built by Jewish families. And this is one of the many reasons why the Chinese, not only private sector, but business officials, have a very high trust and confidence in what Israel and Jewish people can bring. Now, I just want to make one last comment because it's actually funny and it applies to everybody. One customer from Shanghai asked me one day, he said, how many Israelis work in the Silicon Valley? I said, listen, I heard about 200,000. And this guy told me, I said, do you think we can attract 200,000 Israelis to work in China in our Silicon Valley? So get your CV ready and be ready for the steam and humidity, and you'll do it great.
So the book is available now on a pre-sale because we're officially launching next week. So it's at the Hilton bookstore, then in Herzliya Pitua bookstore, and on the website which is called israelandchina.com.
So how did you two get together to write this book, and what was the experience like of co-writing the book? Any arguments along the way?
I mean, we know each other for, my first job was to work in investment banking in Hong Kong. And maybe my first Shabbat coming to the synagogue, chance, I sat close to him. More than 20 years ago.
What I can tell you about the book is obviously we thought that we would be co-writers, but it took half the amount of time.
Twice the amount of time, right?
3 times. But we are very happy we finally did it.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for being here. Israel and China.